Hi, this is Imagination with the Ethical Asshole, and I am your host, the Salty Bitch. I just had this amazing epiphany this morning. I was talking to a dear friend of mine, and when I was going through it, I reached this one particular moment talking about the narcissist cure, and then I went, oh my God, I need to write a book. And I went over to Kindle and started writing it, and I have a lot of material on narcissism and working through the decoding of it. There were three very specific epiphanies that I had. The first one was in December when I was working with one of my case studies, and working in this case study with her, she was a borderline personality disorder, just as I had it. So I recognized it, like I was watching myself. It was very bizarre. And she also was an empath. Again, like spit an image of me. I felt like I was just doing a consultation with myself. It was very surreal for me. And there was this, she had me running around in circles, accusing and pointing, they're narcissism, and I caught on very quickly, this person is highly paranoid. And I remember when I was that paranoid. And I'm listening to her. I was in observation mode and we were talking, and she was telling me everything. And I had this massive, and I was starting to recognize this isn't borderline, this is narcissism. And then it just dawned on me, oh my God, borderline personality disorder is narcissism. So is empathy, all of it. And I went, wait a minute, if she has narcissism with borderline personality disorder and empathy, then I did. But I never resolved it because I didn't know I had it, which meant, oh my God, I have narcissism. And it was amazing. That was the day I broke out of the mirror. That is the day I broke out of the mirror. When you break out of the mirror, that's when you finally realize that you are the only one in the room with narcissism, and you're standing in the hall of mirrors, and that you're never going to get out of it until you stop looking at everybody else. That is the broken mirror day. That is the day the delusion breaks. And this is amazing. You must understand the optic centers of the brain when it comes to physics and when it comes to the subconscious mind. In order to understand any of this, you must understand how much our brains run on optic physics. We project. Projection, that is optic physics. We reflect. We reciprocate. This is all mirror language in optic physics. In physics, this is all optic physics. It is mirror physics. You're talking about reflection, refraction, projection, mimicry, mimic, mirror, repetition, response, optic physics. So when you start to understand how much your mind is literally a hall of mirrors, you really start to think about the subconscious mind differently. But in order to understand it, you must understand optic physics. The majority of my work when I was studying physics, when I was studying the subconscious mind, was just studying optic physics. Now, there's electrical physics, and then there's potential energy, kinetic energy physics, that's emotions. But when it came to mental illnesses, nothing was more spot on than optic physics. Now, this is where it got really, really interesting, because there's all the mental illnesses, which are the progression through the logical comprehension disintegration. It's just the disintegration of logical comprehension. Multiple personality disorder, which I call multiple consciousness disorder, is very much, it's interesting. It's very different than all the others, except narcissism. Narcissism and multiple personality disorder are really different. I would say multiple personality disorder is multiple personality. It's all the other mental illnesses and narcissism, with one characteristic that they share from both of them. All the other mental illnesses are outside of the mirror. They are in response to, such as a catalyst. But narcissism is special in that it actually it hides itself from itself. With PTSD, you don't hide from yourself. You can feel it. You know, you go from A, you can feel the switch go off. But in narcissism, they hide the fact that you've flipped the switch. Multiple personality does that also, where you switch and it hides the switch from you. So while all the other mental disorders are out in the open, you know when you're depressed, you know when you're manic, you know when you're having a PTSD episode, you know because it's one dimensional. But multiple personality disorder and narcissism hides the disorder from the self. So the self can't see it because they've accessed the mirror within the subconscious mind in optic physics. So now in order to decode this thing, you've got to understand optic physics. So I'm sitting here breaking it down, and it was easy peasy. I came up with an if then clause. Here's the if then clause. If it's narcissism, then I will do the opposite. Narcissism is literally the absence of self-love. It's called consumption. So either you have consumption or you have self-love. There you go. Those are your options. It's a spectrum, people. It's a dichotomy. Okay. It's not black and white. It's a dichotomy. It's not an opposite. It's a dichotomy. Big difference. Okay. So you either have self-love, which is the origin of all love, and you have in ratio to consumption, which is the absence of no love. So either you love or you not love. This is the dichotomy of good and evil. It really is. This is it right here. It's love versus not love, which is narcissism. So when you're looking at this imbalance, when you're looking at in what's it ratio to, again, it's a dichotomy. So if you have 100% self-love, you have 0% narcissism. If you have 20% self-love, you're going to have 80% narcissism. It's all that dichotomy. So now you got to understand dichotomy with optic physics in order to get this back. By the way, this is like a 12-year-old physics. Okay, this is like 6th grade level stuff. All right, I'm talking physics. I'm talking dichotomy. This is really 6th grade level stuff. This is not like rocket science. It really is not. It's 6th grade science. 6th grade rocket science. So once you understand the dichotomy, once you understand how these things move and flux together, it's so much easier to navigate. So now you know what you're dealing with. And narcissism literally puts you inside a hall of mirrors. And the purpose of it is to distract you as a red herring to accuse and look at everybody else. That is exactly what its agenda is. So once you understand that this creature will literally hijack your ability, and really, I like to think of it as being sentient for many reasons. One, I'm pretty convinced that love is sentient. 2, because it acts like it's sentient. 3, because it really does have its own personality. 4, because it is not natural. It is actually unnatural. It's the opposite of natural. So, and the fact that it's so smart, I look at it like, I'm pretty sure it's sentient. I'm pretty sure it's sentient. So as I decode it, and I've broken it all down. Basically, narcissism is a magician, a coward, and a salesman, all in one. Aren't we lucky? And the rule number 1 of the narcissist is you cannot let them know that they are a magician, a coward, and a salesman. And you cannot let anyone know this. That is like their first rule. They can't even know this. So the very first thing they do, because they can't walk around acting or being a salesman, they've got to have another name. So 100% of all narcissists wear a mask because they got to hide the fact they are a magician, a coward, and a salesman. Now they've got 2 bags of tricks in their little magic bag, just 2 bags of tricks, 2 bags. Now the bags of tricks are identical. It's the same tricks. They just mislabeled them so that bag of tricks A, and they do, and they only have like 5 tricks, maybe 8 total. And once you learn their 5 to 8 bags of tricks, oh, you got their number. You're fine. You're going to be fine. This is all you got to do. You just got to know their bag of tricks. Now, their second bag of tricks is the same tricks mislabeled. So that throws you off. If you're not expecting it, and this does get a lot of people where they'll go through the bag of tricks, then they'll throw their tantrum, they'll go through it again, and when they don't work, they'll pout, they'll withdraw, and then they'll play nice. And that's them resetting back to stage 1 of gain their trust, which is a thing we're going to walk through. So then they come forward again, and this time they've got their second bag of tricks. Now, their second bag of tricks is identical to the first bag. They just changed the labels around. And once you know that, you'll recognize it. Oh, it's that trick. They just changed it. Oh, and it won't work. It won't work. And once they realize their second bag of tricks doesn't work, they quit and they're gone. They will never bother you again. That's it. That's literally the entire decoding of a narcissist. That's the easy part. The hard part is when it's inside of you. Now, you cannot be around a narcissist for more than 3 weeks without contracting it. And then this is a disease that will only, it's a disease. It is a disease that will only develop so long as you're around people. So it's a sleeping disease. So if you're alone, your narcissism won't go anywhere. In fact, it will shut down. But the moment you get around someone else, it'll wake right back up. 3 months. It ignites, it wakes up after 3 months, which is why you'll meet someone, they're great, everything's fine. And after 3 months, boom, it immediately wakes up and suddenly they're a narcissist. And the narcissist is going, what the fuck is wrong with me? And everyone else is going, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's that 3-month window. 3 months, and that's enough for the language of the language centers of the mind to flip over. And now you've learned each other's language. So now you're on the right frequency because language is frequency. That's a whole thing in linguistical physics. And now you two are talking the same language, and that's when it starts to nourish the consumption, narcissism inside of the narcissist. So this is all the stuff that I break down in a very logical, basic order of this is how it is, this is what it is, this is what you're dealing with. I already have it in the Narcissist Cure, which is a free course on my website. But I love the order and the beauty of book writing. I absolutely love that. So I'm also going to be writing this book called The Two Mirrors of Narcissism and understanding how they work, how to break the mirror, how to get out of it, and how to see it. And the hardest part is understanding that it's a trigger. It's a trigger that when you are around narcissism, that it will trigger you. It will set you off. And it's literally a narcissist seed. So either you have a healthy, nourishing seed or you have a narcissist seed. If you have the narcissist seed inside of you, you've got it. I don't know how to remove the seed. That's what I'm trying to figure out right now. That's where my research on this is currently. And I hypothesize, if it is possible, I swear it is, by the time I get to the end of the book, I will have figured out how to remove the actual seed. So that's what I'm doing right now, is how to remove the seed. Because if we can remove the seed, then you're fine. So long as you know not to let the seed inside of you. So I'm trying to figure out where the origin of the seed is, where it comes from, how I know how it gets inside of you. It's the abuser's door in the cognitive core. So I figured that part also out. So, and I know how it's carried. It's transferred through language. It is literally the only language disease. Actually, it's not the only language disease. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Let's talk about this. Okay. Everything is in the language. Everything is in the language. A language, again, this is linguistical physics. A language is 100% of your, how do I explain this? Well, with physics, a language is literally the compacted seed of logic. It's the compacted seed of a logical line of sequence. So that when you choose a language, you're choosing your logical sequence. So you can go shopping. This is what I did. This is how I did it. I figured this out and I went, well, I'm just going to go shop now for my own mindset. So I chose which mindset I wanted. I went to a grocery store and I went, ooh, which one do I want? And I went through all the different languages and logical sequence. I selected the ones I want. I went Steve Jobs for his success in his business. I wanted, who else do I want? There was one particular person I chose because I wanted the linguistic skills to communicate and articulate myself clearly. And then I went through and I selected Booker T. Washington for his ability to remain calm, educated, composed. I loved everything about Booker T. Washington. And I loved Mother Teresa's, like the work she was doing. So I selected that one as well. So I took these 4 seeds, I merged them together, and there you go. There's me. So I consciously chose which ones I wanted. Consciously chose them. Because I knew, language is just the seeds of the logical sequence. And if you're poor and you don't want to be poor anymore, you don't need to pursue money. You need to change your logical sequence, which is in your language. So you need to find rich people, go on YouTube, they're all over the place, and you just listen to their YouTube videos all day. You learn their language. You listen to how they talk. 3 weeks of just constantly listening to their language. I watch videos like, I do not watch Trump. Do not watch him because he's got narcissism. And then you'll pick it up. But watch Rich Dad, Poor Dad. and watch Steve Jobs. Oh, Steve Jobs is amazing. He's healthy. So I watch those two, and that absorbs into my brain. That absolutely absorbs into my brain. If somebody has narcissism, I deliberately don't listen to them because that puts it back in my brain. That is how it's contracted in the brain. That's how you pick it up. You don't attract narcissism. Your language attracts it. You don't attract criminals. Your language does. There's a certain language every single one of them uses or does. People who struggle with addiction, they have a language, which is how you're attracting them. People who with multiple personality disorder, I don't know, because I had my multiples and we all have different personalities. Interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we all had different languages. Now, Joanna had narcissism, imagination didn't. That's how I figured this out, is I had a point of origin and an outsider's point of view with an insider's point of view at the same time. 4 times over. It was amazing. 5 times over when you count me. So it's interesting because you have the data. Now, wait a minute, I got 5 data points, guys, which means I got information. So once you start understanding that, you can start cherry picking what language you want. You change your language, you change everything. Now, a narcissist, and there's like the three, I want to call this the 3 epiphanies I had with narcissists, because the first one was the realization of, oh my God, I have it. So there's the realization and the awareness that you've got it. The second thing was the language, realizing that it's in the language. And the third thing that I noticed, in addition to it being in the language, it's how they weaponize the third and the second point of view. So they use words like they and we as weapons. It's really interesting how they use point of view speech to shape their language. That's a whole thing that I do. And then the other thing that I noticed, there's a third epiphany that I just had. I'm still in the process of dissecting it, like, wow, this is the mirrors, is understanding the 2 mirrors. That's it. So there's the first awareness of, OMG, I have it. And then the second epiphany I had was realizing that it's in the language. Now, the first stage was understanding the big picture, which is the magician, the coward, the salesman. And then in the second phase, this is April of this year, I learned, oh my God, it's in the language. And then I was able to break down the language, which that work is almost done. There's basically 3 columns. You have the banned growth words. You have the contaminated words, the mirror words where they've reversed the meaning. It's literally opposite day in their language. And that's the hardest one to break down, because I have so many examples on this, because when you look at the etymological study of words, a word will be the same and it will pass on through the ages. And then you get to the opposite day, this one particular moment, and this word will all of a sudden, 16th century, a lot went down in the 16th century. In the 16th century, you will see that the word was literally reversed, 180 in its meaning, 180 degrees. This is common in the 16th century. A lot went down in the 16th century. So that a word will mean something very good and positive, and then the 16th century happened, and it's a 180, and the word is literally the exact opposite and changes the meaning. We see that in the 16th century. And then the 4th century, there's also a lot of tells there. And then the next stage is the 2 mirrors. And that's where, so you have those 3 columns. So you also have shrink words. So narcissists use shrink words. They ban grow words, and they have their mirrored contaminated. I'm going to call it mirrored contaminated words. Mirrored contaminated, because they take a word, they contaminate it, and then they mirror it. They reverse it. You could say mirror reversed words. That's great. That you have mirror reversed words like friend or love, which is why we have true love and love, because narcissists use mirror reverse to change the meaning of love. Friend. I had a problem with friend for a very long time, because I only had narcissists using that word when they would greet you. Hi, friend. Oh, yeah. And it took me a very long time. Now I have true friends. Literally, that's what I call them, is true friends. That way, that's in my brain now. And I'm looking for true friends. And as soon as I did that, say they won't touch the word true. It's great. They can't touch the word true. I hypothesize that a person, any individual, is only allowed X amount of lie before their brain breaks. I'm really dead serious about this. A person is only allowed X amount of lies before their mind breaks. And their self-preservation is hardwired to this formula. X amount of lies equals mind breakage. So your self-preservation system is on standby so that once you reach that X level, your mind's going to break. That's where you get a breaking point happening. You've told too many lies, or you have too many lies inside of you. So there are certain words that will put the mind over that point, and self-preservation in a narcissist will actually cause them to avoid using the word true for self-preservation purposes. So they won't use the word true because it will break their mind if they use it, because that's one lie too many. Literally, it's one lie too many. This is an hypothesis I'm currently working on. One lie too many. It's a theory. I shouldn't call this a hypothesis. This is a theory, because I've noticed this. And I've had conversations with narcissists on purpose, trying to get them to say certain words. I'm a bitch. I'm a bitch. I do this kind of work where I will try and get them to say certain kinds of words, and they won't. Their self-preservation and subconscious mind is like, no, we don't use that word. And it's amazing to watch them dance. They will dance and move all around it. I'm like, fascinating, because you are only allowed X amount of lies before your mind breaks, and their self-preservation will not allow them to surpass that. So the word true is banned from a narcissist, because if they use the word true, they can't, it literally negates all of their lie and it makes it the truth. And that logic is so engrossed inside of them that they can't do it. Now they can say, oh, I don't lie. They can say that, but they can't say truth. They can't use the word true or truth. It's really interesting. I think they can if they have X amount of lies inside of them, but once they reach that max, then they stop saying the word, and they can't, because it will push them over. It's really fascinating to watch. So it's a theory I'm working on, that you're only allowed X amount of lies before your mind breaks. So as a result, there are certain words that are untouched by narcissists. And what ended up happening was a language story. This is literally in linguistics physics. Is when you start to put all these words together, you notice, isn't this fascinating? Only emotion words have been touched or contaminated or changed by narcissists. No other words, like the word home. This is amazing. The word home has two meanings to a non-narcissist, but a narcissist doesn't know that. So a narcissist does not know about the emotional meaning of home, so they never touch it. Never. It's never been altered. That's why there's only like one or two definitions of home. It is, they think it's a place. So because they have it in their minds as a place, they don't touch it, because it's not something they can use to manipulate people. They only change the words they can use to manipulate people. So when you start to look at the words, it's fascinating what they've decided they should use and shouldn't use, what ones they've weaponized and what ones they haven't. And then there's we're going to compromise these words with the mirror reversing. Reversed words. So once you understand the shrink words, the grow words, and the mirror reversed words, oh, you got their code down. Now, in addition to those words, they're also going to only speak in third person perspective and second person perspective. The only time they use first person perspective is when they say the word I, just, as in an excuse. I was just, or well, I couldn't because, or I didn't because. So it's only they only speak in responsibility. They only speak in responsibility. Look for this. This is amazing. This is absolutely fascinating. They only speak in responsibility. Now, there is a trigger where as soon as you're around a narcissist, as soon as you start to see a narcissist, you've been triggered. Because you're not going to see narcissism if it's not been triggered inside of you. That's how I know when I see it, is because I had a couple friends and I could feel my eggshell walking pick up. And I went, ah, shit, I'm turning into a narcissist. Where did it come from? And I was able to figure out who it came from. I distanced myself and I was able to immediately recalibrate. And now I'm like, I'm fine. I'm not eggshell walking anymore. I don't see any narcissists. I'm good. But as soon as you start to see narcissists, you've got it. If you can see them, you've got it, because you can't see it unless you've got it. You cannot see it unless you've got it. And that's just it. That's why you get it and you're fine and you're having a great time with them. And then 3 months in, suddenly you start to go, are they a narcissist? I'm going to tell you right now, you're starting to see it in them because you finally have it to the point where it's developed. And it's only visible in the second stage. It's never visible in the first stage. It's literally a disease. It passes just like a disease. So it gets inside of you and it's literally dormant and sleeping. Oh, you're infective, but it's dormant and sleeping. And then you get to the second stage, and that's when you start to see it. That's when the paranoia sets in. When you start to feel paranoia, you've got it. Paranoia is 100% narcissism. And then it goes into the panic and the full-fledged. That's at the last stages of consumption. So the stages of narcissism are the infected stage. I haven't named it yet because I'm still doing work on that one. But the second stage is paranoia, and that's obsession, then possession, and then consumption. Again, that's obsession, possession, consumption. Paranoia, and paranoia is early stage. Now, paranoia starts and gets worse, but paranoia is, I almost want to say it's paranoia, obsession, possession, consumption. But paranoia, there's a space. Like paranoia is the late stage of stage 1. So you've got it before you feel paranoia. And that's it really. Paranoia, possession, obsession, then possession, then consumption. So, and this is the other thing, and I'm going to warn you right now. Once you figure this out, all romantic movies are going to become toxic for you to watch. I'm going to warn you right now. Every chick flick in the world, every romance novel is going to disgust you. So there's that disclaimer. Be prepared for that. I love Karen Marie Moning. Karen Marie Moning, she's good. Her women are strong. There's no narcissism there. I'm just checking one moment here. I got to go back and read them. But I don't think, no, there's no narcissism in there. No, there's no narcissism in there. The Karen Marie Moning's really good with her romance novels not having narcissism. Yep, I'm pretty sure of it. I have to go back and check them again, but I'm pretty sure of it. So, which is why I read her. It's like the only romance novel I found where there's actually no narcissism. Now, at Shits and Giggles, I love that. At Shits and Giggles, I sat down and watched Twilight with my daughter, and we spent the entire 5 movies, pinpointing all the cases of narcissism. That was fun. Like, oh my God, the toxicity. It's like, yeah, it was great. So it just a warning that literally romantic love is narcissism in disguise. Like, just be prepared for that because it's going to ruin all romance for you. And it's funny because narcissists are like, oh, but love. And it's like, oh, dudes, that's so not love. Like, that is not love. And don't worry, there is real love out there, but you just aren't aware of it. So I have a whole thing on wisdom love, and that's different. Oh, that's a beautiful creature. That's something very different. And that I also provide, that I also teach, that's going to be included. So, look, you're going to get love. It's just not what the narcissists have painted through romantic love. Now I hear romantic love, and all I hear is romance, which is Romulus, which is the founder of Rome, and he killed his brother. That's right. He killed his brother. So romance is based off of Romulus. And when you understand integrated mathematics and how the origin always passes its own origin onto everything thereafter, you understand that. And then it's like, oh, this is a bastard child of Rome. That means it came from Romulus, the brother killer. Suddenly I'm like, yeah, you're gonna learn to really fucking hate Rome, because Rome has the brother killer that's contaminated all. He literally built an entire empire based off of the mark of Cain. And romance love is literally just that. Like, you're going to see it. So aside from that disclaimer, that's pretty much it. So breaking down the 2 mirrors, understanding which side of the mirror you're on. Now, this is the really, you got to wrap your head around this part. It doesn't matter which side of the mirror you're on. If you are in mirror land, you've got it. And that's just it. It doesn't matter if you're on the right side of the mirror or the wrong side of the mirror. You're in the mirror. The goal is to get out of the hall of mirrors. So if you're on the right side of the mirror, right, as in the left side versus the right side of the mirror, or the front or the back of the mirror, it doesn't matter. You're in the mirror. So this isn't well, I'm on the right side of the mirror. No, dudes, you're in the mirror. You got to get out of it. This is what Alice in Wonderland was all about. You've got to get out of the mirrors. You've got to get out of the hall. So once you're on the outside, and you have to become an outsider of narcissism, that is the agenda. If you are inside the two mirrors, you are an insider. So there's the insider point of view and the insider point of view. And then you've got the outsider point of view. And this is why I think this is why I understand narcissism so well, is because of the multiple personality disorder. Because with multiple personality disorder, hi, I'm on the outside because I lived for 32 years on the inside, a slave to my four alters who got to run the show. Now, my four alters, I also got to see their point of view at the same time. It's a trip. And I had four inside points of views with my fifth enslaved point of view to them. And now I got the outside point of view. So now I got a lot of perspective. This is what I call a lot of perspective. So I'm like, all right. So I get this now. So now I'm looking at narcissism, which is only 3. Yeah. You see where I'm going? I'm like, oh, this is easy, which is why I'm able to understand narcissism as clearly as I do, is because I'm familiar with multiple perspectives. I'm understanding how to manage that and what needs to be done. I know what it feels like to get into the outside. One of my favorite things when I was multiple, is I had Joanna and then I had myself. And when I was imagination, it was amazing. I was like outsider, inside, outside, inside. And I literally, on purpose, switched to study the differences where I was going inside, outside, outside. And I'm like, this is fascinating. And this is back when we didn't share consciousnesses yet. This is why I call it multiple consciousness disorder, is because we were switching consciousnesses. Only consciousnesses, because we all have multiple personalities. The question is, do you have multiple consciousnesses? So once you realize you have a multiple consciousness, which is why you have no memory, like you have your own memory bank for every one of them, because each one of them is their own consciousness, which has its own perspective. What ends up happening is you have the ability to step yourself outside of it, to look on the outside, and then you step back into it. So I was literally like inside the fishbowl, outside of the fishbowl, inside of the fishbowl, and then I had 4 fishbowls. So I was like fishbowl, fishbowl, fishbowl. But when I got to that fishbowl, which is imagination, I realized I wasn't in a fishbowl. I was standing on the outside, looking out, going, this is fascinating. Why? So imagination wasn't actually one of my alters. She was a fraction of me going out early to see if the coast was clear. That's really what she was, which is why on May 2022, I had this massive, I thought I shifted. I thought I had a personality split. And suddenly I was like, me. And I was out. And I was like, oh my God, I'm out. But it was very surreal. It was a day. I need to just write off the days that I came out after 32 years. And it was like, oh my God, it was amazing. It was amazing. But that was like the surface version of me. It wasn't the core of me. It was like, you go out and see if it's safe to come out now. So imagination came out, and that was actually me. And she had no personality. She had nothing. She had no mental disorders because she had been safe for so long that she was okay. It was extraordinary. So it was also really amazing to see what my subconscious mind allowed me to keep in memory, what Joanna allowed me to keep in memory. See, but Joanna didn't choose this. The subconscious mind chose it for her. So self-preservation managed all of them. Self-preservation did this. And in Inside Out Fear, he did this. He did this to me. And he put all of them in charge and used Joanna as a host. And so he's the one who arranged all of us. And Bergen was an interesting anomaly. Imagination, it took me a while to realize that I hadn't split, that I was actually coming out. And then shortly after imagination, I started to stutter because I stutter. I was inside my imagination the vault in Inside Out 2? That's where I lived. I was in the vault in Inside Out 2. It was so funny. I was watching Inside Out 2 and I got to that point. And I was like, oh my God, it's where I lived. It was amazing. As soon as I saw the vault, I'm like, that's where I was. That's the 4th level of the subconscious mind. It's a bitch. That's where you put all of the deep dark. That is where I lived, the vault. So I got to see my home. You got to visit my home in Inside Out 2. Yeah, that's where I lived. So it's not fun in there. It's not fun in there. It's fucking horrible. And I knew all my deep dark secrets because I lived there. I have nothing to hide from myself. So when you get out, it's this real, like, you gain that perspective of inside outside. And then I have all their memories once we integrated, so that I remember myself in their point of view. That's a trip 4 times. So it's interesting. It's really, really interesting. And it's so fascinating because the memories are of the different points of views. This is how I know the difference between a point of view and a perspective. This is how I know the point of view and a perspective, because they are not the same thing. They are not the same thing. You don't do this kind of work. You don't do this kind of work and not understand time properly. So yeah, I could call this the multiple perspective. I really should like do a whole thing where I just call this the multiple perspective. One of these days I'm going to talk about it, because I keep like, I don't really dive deep into life as a multiple personality disorder person. I don't do that because why don't I? I don't know why I don't. But yeah, it's multiple perspective. It's literally the multiple perspective. That's what I'm going to call it. The multiple perspective. I could do like, I love the ethical asshole. I don't know if I'll ever change my podcast name again. I love the ethical asshole. I changed my podcast channel title based off of how I'm feeling and where I am in life. It's basically, and that's it. It's where I am in life. So I love the multiple perspective go. That might be my next one. Once I'm done with my ethical asshole stage, I might move on to the multiple perspective. I don't know yet. I'll think about that. I really love that though. The multiple perspective. And that's it, is when you have multiple personality disorder, like there's having it, and then there's getting out of it, and then there's organizing your life after it, and then there's doing the weird shit that I'm doing with ontology and physics, and it's like, this is amazing. And this is where it's amazing to me, because a lot of people don't study physics. And a lot of people don't have multiple personality disorder consciously. And a lot of people don't have the discipline of getting this under control while they are also studying physics. So it's like this really awesome, perfect storm I've got here of physicist, ontologist, multiple personality disorder, and all right, I know how to articulate myself and communicate because I'm also an author. So it's this really rare, juicy joy of being able to communicate and articulate, as well as provide the multiple perspective. And also, here's the math, the logic, and the physics, because I'm an ontological physicist, and it's really cool. So that you can understand this is the multiple perspective. And what that allows is when you get into narcissism, boy, you really get to see things that other people just can't see because they don't have the multiple perspective. So that's really a lot of this, is how I was able to do mental diversification. And it was, all right, let's get this optic physics in my brain situated, which is why once I figured out multiple personality disorder, I integrated April of 2023. December of 2023, I went, oh my God, I have narcissism. Quick, get the, and it was great because all of the tools that I used for multiple personality, I just went right to town on my narcissism. Like, no, let's get this out of here. Quick, get the offend clause. And it was wonderful. They all came in like a fire hose. We all did too. Fire hose, like, I got it. If it's narcissism, then we do the opposite. What does that mean? Grouping, quick, get the mathematicians. And the mathematicians in my brain all ran in, and we immediately set to work with all of these little clipboards, and we're sitting there going, all the calculate, look at the common denominators, find the common denominators. And we did, we found all the common denominators, and we wrote down all the common denominators. We identified, all right, I got the list here, sir. All right, fantastic. So here it is, everyone listen. And they all sat down, all of my people, and we all sat down and we said, all right, here are all the common denominators of narcissism. Remember, if it's narcissism, we do the opposite, because what is the opposite of love? Narcissism. Therefore, we're going to do love. Love. Let's just go love people, love. So that's what we did. That is exactly how it happened. That is exactly how it happened. That is how it went down. That is how my brain functions. Yes, I have a team of mathematicians that move like military men in my brain. That's how it works. So I immediately wrote the narcissist cure and put it all down there. These are the common denominators. Look for these common denominators. And 3 months later, I was like, oh my God, we found another narcissist. How did we make this? Quick. And we put the team back together again. It was a lot like in Toy Story with those little toy soldier men. Move, execute. It was just like that. just like that. And I had fire hoses. And it was just a bunch of mathematicians and physicists. And we're all sitting there doing all the scribbling and all the calculations. And it's like, all right, this is what we've been able to determine. We're using logic. We just need the single if then clause. It's in the language, sir. It's in the language. It's in the language. We need to get that quick. So we did it again. We wrote down all the common denominators and we started to break down the code of the language of narcissism. And then we started to like do the grouping and the categories. And look, we got 3 groupings. All their words seem to be under growth band words and shrink words that they nourish. And we also have the reverse manipulated words. Got it, understood. And they also do something really interesting with the point of view. Thank God I'm a writer. Because when you're a writer, you have the ability to understand writing and grammar and prepositions and predicates. And when you know writing, suddenly you understand, oh, look at those sneaky little bastards. Do you know what they've done? And then all my mathematicians going to go, what? It's language skills. They've compromised linguistics, logic, and language. That's how they get in through the abuser's door of the cognitive core. So then I understood, oh, they're just weaponizing words. That's what they do. They weaponize words. They use logic and linguistics and words. And they go in, they're grammar Nazis. That's what they are. They are compromised grammar Nazis. I'm writing this down. Grammar Nazis. Narcissists. The real grammar Nazis. That's it. I'm going to put that down here. Narcissists. I know, right? My daughter gets first seat. She gets VIP access to my theatrical productions. And every now and then she just starts giggling. So grammar Nazis are the real narcissists. So that's really what we're up against, people. We're up against grammar Nazis who have access to your cognitive core. This is not going to be healthy. This is not healthy at all. It takes a writer. It takes a writer to figure this shit out. It takes an author, and it takes a writer. And I'm writing this down too. And it takes a physicist. I had to study physicists. And I also had to study ontology. Ontology is the study of reality. That's how I broke the mirrors. Ontology is the study of reality. What's funny is metaphysics comes before ontology. A lot of metaphysicists don't make it to ontology. So this is so funny. When you study metaphysics, well, first you got to study existentialism, which is the death of the ego. And after you destroy your ego and there's nothing left and you're like, who am I? What am I? It's okay. You're ready for existentialism now. So that's like stage 1 of existentialism is we're going to break you and remove your ego from you. There will be no opinion henceforth. And then after that, you enter the world of metaphysics. And metaphysics needs reality, but you don't get to that point until you get to ontology. So metaphysicists go all over the place, but they go way off kilter. And it's like, guys, we need to bring it back here with ontology. And that's what ontology does, is it slaps the reality into the metaphysicists. And it's hilarious because the ontology really keeps the metaphysics in check if you continue your studies. The problem is metaphysics runs the danger of you running off with a theory, and then you're off in the X quadrant. And it's like, what are you doing out there? And you're way out there because you never studied ontology and you got way off course. And if they didn't study existentialism, this is why it's important, then your ego is going to carry you way off there and your metaphysics is going to way off bounds. But you need existentialism before your metaphysics, and you need ontology after your metaphysics to sandwich you back into the reality of the container going, hey, you really need to keep this grounded, guys. So I studied ontology. And when you study ontology with physics and being an author and a writer, I'm also a logician. Now, I cannot tell you enough what kind of a gorgeous cocktail this is. I really, this is like the most gorgeous thing in the entire world. Now, in addition to this, let's throw, because I'm an author and a writer and a logician, you got to study language. So linguist is also the foundation of all of that. So this is where it gets really amazing. This is a career path that no one has any idea exists. And this is the most amazing career path. Like, I cannot explain to you enough how this career path is the most amazing one there is, because what we are, when you are an ontological physicist, this is actually your area, is you need to be an author, a writer, a linguist, a physicist, a logician, and an ontologist. Now, when you study language, you need to be studying Latin, ancient Greek, hieroglyphics. Oh, I loved that stage. And you need to be studying Old Persian, Old Norse, Proto-Germanic. I only studied the ancient languages and also Old Irish. Now, there's Old Gaelic, let's call it Gaelic, but I liked Old Irish instead of Old Scottish. But I studied, I don't know, I preferred Old Irish because they also had the Pictus language in there. I don't know, I just did not like Old Scottish enough. It did not ring my bell. So Latin, yeah, okay, and then there's two kinds of Latins. This is what a lot of people don't know. There's classic Latin, and then there's modern Latin. Modern Latin came in the 16th century, people. I'm going to say it again. Shit went down in the 16th century. So, yeah, you have Latin, you have the ancient Greek, Old Persian, Old Norse, Proto-Germanic, Old Irish. So that's really, I also studied Gallic, which is pre-French Gallic, Gallic, as opposed to Gaelic, completely different. So there you go. Those right there are your, if you're going to become a linguist, you've got to study those languages. And this is all through etymology and understanding how a word builds. It's word building. Now, I received a part of my education that no one else has. It's really bizarre. I studied word building. Word building is something I received between 5 years old and 11 years old. And that was, I don't know why, I was in a parochial DIY religious school. And for some reason, they gave me word building. And it blows my mind because I thought, oh, everyone's got this. No, you don't. And my God, does it show. And word building, I blows my mind away. It's here's a prefix, here's a suffix, here's how this word block fits together with this word block. And this word merges with this word to become a new word. But it's not becoming a new word. It is literally integrated, and then it's creating a parent. It's creating a successor of. So you're learning word succession. You're learning word integration. You are learning word predecessor, and you are learning word successor. So you're learning the genealogy of language. Language is a genealogy. And this is where it's like, it is not evolution. That's something entirely different that no one knows nothing of. So here's how it works. Genealogy exists in a single chain. Evolution occurs over here, not inside here. This is really, really important. When evolution occurs inside here, you get a mutant in cancer and cell. This is where cancer comes from. So you have, if you imagine a DNA chain, and imagine a DNA chain. Now, these chains have links, and the link has 4 parts to it. And this 4-part link, are you all right, Liz? Oh, computer problems. This 4-part link is not where evolution takes place. This is where creation takes place. Evolution takes place at the end as the link connects to the next one. So you get creation and growth, evolution, creation and growth, evolution, creation and growth, evolution. And when you get evolution inside the creation link, oh, shit hits the fan. That's where the mutation happens. That's where a lot of problems happen. Our current educational system literally has this backwards. It's contaminated. This is Romulus at work here, guys. This is Rome's problem all over again. This is what happens when you have a brother killer working at your educational system. This is why. This is right here. So as a result, you end up with a mutation and something that's going to disintegrate because it's been contaminated. So you now have a faulty code inside your chain. So it literally goes creation, evolution, creation, evolution. You kind of need both of them. So that's what's going on with words. That's what's going on with logic. It's what's going on with sequence. It's what's going on with story. Now, narcissism is literally what happens to the subconscious mind when evolution gets inside of the creation process. That's what happens. So that is where I'm taking all of this. That is what I'm doing with my book, The Two Mirrors of Narcissism. And that's all I have to say about that. So thank you so much. This has been an imbroglio. And may the kindest of words always find you.